Well, welcome in, folks. Welcome in live, Tiger fans, to a brand new Monday afternoon edition of the Babin on the Bayou show. I'm your host, as always, Justin Babin Jr. It is indeed Monday, April 13th, 2026. Thank you, folks, as always, for tuning into the show. I greatly appreciate it. Unfortunately, on the show today, we got to recap LSU Tigers, LSU Baseball getting swept by Ole Miss on the road in Oxford, Mississippi. I got a lot to say. A lot of it's going to be negative, unfortunately. It was a rough weekend on the baseball diamond for your Fighting Tigers, and we got a lot to recap, a lot to go through, and a lot to talk about. But before we get to all of that, of course, we want to remind you, as always, about our wonderful daily sponsors of the Babin on the Bayou show and the team over at Shield Heating and Cooling. Remember, the best AC team in the business today. Remember that number, 225-46 Bayou, 225-46 Bayou, BAYOU. Call the team over at Shield Heating and Cooling today. Tell them you heard about them from the Babin on the Bayou show, and you will be receiving free AC system cleaning checks courtesy for every AC system in your home, by the way, courtesy of the wonderful team over at Shield Heating and Cooling. Also, folks, even after a loss, even after a rough weekend like the one we just witnessed for LSU baseball, I still love my Tigers. We all still love our Tigers and are going to root and cheer on our Tigers no matter what. But you know what I also love? I also love food, especially sweets. And there's not a better place that I personally have found for you to go to for all of the delicious sweet treats that you desire than a new sponsor that we're bringing on for the Babin on the Bayou show, a brand new sponsor that we're excited to come on and be a part of the show, and the team over at Sugar Me Sweets, Cakes, and Confections. From fresh chocolate chip baked cookies to cake squares to cupcakes to custom decorated cakes, the team over at Sugar Me Sweets, Cakes, and Confections has it all for you, has it all covered. You can contact them by calling them at their number 225-250-1950. Again, that's 225-250-1950. You can call them at that number, or you can go to them in person. Their bakery is located in the city of Central Louisiana. That's 8565 Rome, ROME Drive, 8565 Rome Drive. They have a storefront that is always fully stocked storefront for all of your last minute dessert needs. They do great work. They're the best bakery around, and we're so excited to bring them on as a brand new sponsor of the Babin on the Bayou show and the wonderful team over at the bakery at Sugar Me Sweets, Cakes, and Confections. Again, you can reach them at that number 225-250-1950 or meet them in person in the city of Central, 8565 Rome, ROME Drive. That's Sugar Me Sweets, Cakes, and Confections. Okay, we got a lot to get to on the show today with LSU baseball. A lot of stuff we got to talk about. I'll get into the comments. What's up, Randy? What's up, Randy? We are live. Go Tigers. Yes, my friend, we are indeed live. Excited or not? I mean, after this weekend, I don't know how excited I am to get into the show, Randy and folks, but we're gonna cover it. We got a lot to talk about. Let's get right into it, folks. Let's get right into it. Look, Tigers got swept this weekend. LSU suffers their first series sweep that they suffered this season. They get swept on the road in Oxford, Mississippi by the Ole Miss Rebels. Lose 6-3 in game one Friday, get run ruled in an embarrassing fashion. 12-2, 7-inning run rule. LSU loses on Saturday, and then they lost 8-7 in game three yesterday, Sunday afternoon. It was a bad weekend. It was a rough weekend. And frankly, we saw a lot of bad baseball, folks. We saw a lot of bad baseball from this LSU team this weekend. And I know, yes, coming into this, they had won their last two SEC weekend series. And yes, that was awesome, beating Kentucky and beating Tennessee on the road in Knoxville. But we still see from this team that they are wildly inconsistent. They are not really consistent in any phase of the game, whether that's offense with hitting, whether that's pitching, or whether that's especially playing good defense in the field. And we'll get to all of that. We'll go through game flow. We'll go through everything. A lot of it is going to be negative. I'm going to try not to rant. I might rant at portions of the show because we just saw a lot of bad baseball this weekend. I've said it. This team's not really consistently good at anything. The only thing that they're consistent about at this point in the season, and I'm not saying it can't get better because they are 6-9 halfway through SEC conference play. And in 2024, if you remember, they were 3-12 in SEC play at this point, and they went on a run toward the back half of the SEC regular season, and they went on a run in Hoover in the SEC tournament. And then they ended up making it all the way to the regional final before losing in Chapel Hill to the North Carolina Tar Heels. So I'm not saying none of this can be figured out. But at this point in the season, the only thing this team is consistent at is being inconsistent. And I know that's it sounds weird. But again, the only thing this team is consistent at is being inconsistent. They're just it's so up and down. It's so up and down all the time with this team, from the pitching to the hitting to the defense. I mean, when you talk about the defense is actually consistently bad. The defense is consistently bad in the field. I mean, statistically, they are the worst fielding team in the Southeastern Conference. They are dead last in the SEC in fielding percentage. It's been a really bad year for the Tigers in 2026 defensively in the field. It has not been good at all this season for the Tigers. I mean, outside of Steven Milam, especially in the infield, you've had issues at catcher, first base, second base, third base. The defense is just not good. The defense consistently is pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's the worst defense in the SEC. There's a lot we're going to talk about there. I think they flat out cost you the game in Friday on game one. I think they flat out cost you the game defensively with their performance in the bottom of the eighth inning. That, quite frankly, was absolutely putrid defensively in the bottom of the eighth inning. So the defense has been really bad. I mean, we can go through that again. Worst fielding percentage in the SEC for any team in the SEC. I think they cost you the game one in the eighth inning Friday night. Offensively, it was also a struggle at times. The offense didn't score a single run after the second inning. They scored 2 runs in the first 2 innings of the game on Saturday, and then they didn't score another run on Saturday in a game where, probably the most embarrassing loss of the season, 12-2 run rule. I mean, it wasn't even a competition on Saturday late in that game. It wasn't even a competition, quite frankly. And then on Sunday offensively in game 3, this team didn't have a single hit in the first 6 innings of the game on Sunday. I mean, they had that. I mean, these Sunday games have been absolutely insane for LSU so far through 5 weeks of SEC play, and this one was as well. Unfortunately, the Tigers lost this one compared to the other ones that they've been able to get the W in. But I mean, the offense, again, they didn't have a hit through 6 innings on Sunday before they had that wild 7th inning, which we'll get to a little bit later. But for the majority of the weekend, I don't think your offense played good baseball. I think offensively, again, it's just been hit or miss, man. It's been so inconsistent. I know my buddy David Billiot pointed this out. I was reading David's article kind of recapping the first 2 games of the series. And he kind of talked about how it feels like even in, the series against Kentucky that you won, the series against Tennessee you won, really you're having to rely on the long ball. You're having to rely on the home run ball so often. I mean, think about you had to have the Pearson Grand Slam and the Dardar 3-run bomb and the Sunday game to get you back in it against Kentucky. I mean, against Tennessee on that Friday game 1, Brandon Arvidsson, the reliever, had to walk 3 straight batters before Derek Curiel hit a grand slam to give you the lead late Friday night in game 1 in Knoxville against Tennessee. You had to hit a bunch of solo home runs Sunday in game 3 on Easter Sunday in Knoxville against Tennessee, including 4 home runs for Cade Arambidi. And the last one wasn't a solo bomb. It was a grand slam in the 12th inning. So I think offensively it's inconsistent, and offensively, one other thing is you don't play good situational baseball. Like this team doesn't play good situational baseball. The amount of times this team is unable to move runners over when you have runners in scoring position with less than 2 outs in an inning and you're not able to move the runners over. You're not able to get the runs home. You don't even have to get a base hit. Give me a sac fly to the outfield. Just put the ball in play. Like, just put the ball in play. Play situational baseball, and this team consistently fails to do that. They have to rely like almost solely on the long ball or the home run ball. They might have a couple innings like the 7th inning yesterday where they're able to rake and really have a good inning, but situationally, not like 8 times out of 10, this team doesn't play good situational offensive baseball. You saw base running mistakes this weekend, especially on Friday in game one that really cost you, that we'll get into. I mean, all of the defensive plays that we're going to talk about Friday just made me infuriated on Friday with how bad your defense played and how bad your defense has been this season. And then as a pitching staff, I think at times this season you've been really good as a pitching staff. Like I think you had a good series as a pitching staff in Knoxville against Tennessee. I think you were really good in Knoxville against Tennessee as a pitching staff. But we kind of talked about it, like this Ole Miss offense coming into the series against LSU was not that impressive. They weren't that good offensively, at least statistically. I mean, they were like second to last in the SEC as a team and team batting average. They were 14th in conference play so far through the first 12 conference games of the season and runs scored. I mean, offensively, this Ole Miss offense was struggling in their first 4 SEC series of the regular season. Ole Miss was only averaging, like they were averaging what, 11.3 runs per series in their first 4 3-game series. In their first 4 weekends of SEC conference play, Ole Miss was averaging only 11.3 runs per series, per 3-game series. Well, they put up 26 runs in 3 games this weekend against the LSU pitching staff. I mean, you may have had a few good performances, a few good outings for your pitchers in between there, but there was a lot of bad from the pitching staff this weekend, quite frankly. And there was just a ton of bad this weekend. It was a bad weekend. And to me, the number one thing for me is I'll get into a few stats here in a little bit. More things on the pitching. I'll get into the number one thing in a little bit before we get into game flow. Some of these numbers I got from Hunt Palmer does a good job. I was reading an article from him kind of recapping the weekend earlier today, and just some numbers out there. This LSU pitching staff has given up 8+ runs in 6 of their 15 games so far in conference play. So nearly half of their games so far in conference play, they've given up 8+ runs. That only happened in 4 out of the 30 games that they played in regular season conference play last year. Now, I know last year you had Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson on the bump for you in the first 2 games. So I understand that. But it's like, halfway through SEC play, you've given up 8+ run games in SEC play halfway through, and you only gave up 4 for the entire conference slate for 2025 as a whole last year. So I think this pitching staff has been good at times. They weren't good this weekend. They really, really struggled this weekend. Again, you gave up, the average for this Ole Miss offense was 11 runs per SEC series. They put up 15 more runs than their average this weekend. They were 15 runs better than their SEC weekend average against you this weekend. So I think it was a bad weekend overall from the pitching staff. A few more numbers here. In 3 combined starts from Gavin Guidry and Grant Fontenot, really replacing Cooper Moore since Cooper Moore's been out. Hopefully, maybe he can pitch and come back against Texas A&M this weekend is what I'm hearing. But in the 3 combined starts since replacing Cooper Moore, Guidry and Fontenot have combined to work 4 1/3 innings. They've given up 11 runs on 8 hits, 7 walks, and 5 strikeouts. I mean, Grant Fontenot, who I think has been really good for you this season, I really do. He only got 1 out for you in that game yesterday. He only got 1 out in the game for you yesterday before he was taken out of the game as the starter. So it wasn't a good weekend overall. Offensively, again, you're not able to consistently be able to hit and produce offensively against top end SEC arms. I mean, you've been able to do well offensively on Sundays when teams have run out of pitching, but against some of these SEC aces, like who have you struggled with against this season? LJ Mercurius, Jackson Jelkin. I would say you struggled largely against Hunter Elliott and Cade Townsend, Landon Mack, Tegan Coons, Cam Appenzeller. And there's more names we could throw in there. But I think against the top end SEC arms, this offense has not been able to produce at a solid level. They may be able to capitalize on the back end of a team's bullpen and conference play on a Sunday. But I think consistently this offense hasn't been great against top end arms in the SEC. I think they've struggled in those situations. And it was a bad weekend for LSU baseball. But the number one thing for me is just how bad this defense is. Just how bad this defense is, folks. It is not fun to watch this Tiger team play defense outside of Stephen Milam, who makes great plays. He's the best defense shortstop in the country. But otherwise, on the infield, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bleak. And I said it before SEC play started, and I thought it before, going into conference play. I was like, look, if this defense doesn't get any better, it's going to cost you games. It's going to cost you games. And I think we saw that this weekend. I absolutely think we saw that this weekend. And I hesitate doing this because I love Jay Johnson, and I do truly believe in nothing that happens the rest of the season is going to change this. But nothing that happens the rest of the season is going to change the fact that I believe that Jay Johnson is the best college baseball coach in America. He's put up he's won 2 natties in the last 3 years. That's amazing. That's amazing. And this season is not going well. This season is not going great. But Jay Johnson is an amazing coach. But I do not understand how when your defense is bad, they are bad, you feel the freedom to shift as much as you do. You shift way too entirely much for a defense that is this bad. This defense struggles to field in their regular positions, and you constantly are shifting and doing all of these different things. And I know the shift works at sometimes, and I know you're probably trying to get Stephen Milam in the spot where you think the ball is going to get hit. So I understand, but all of the shifting that you're doing with this team struggles to field from their regular positions. This team's not good enough to shift as much as they are. And I understand the shift is a part of it. And again, you're probably trying to get Milam in the right place, but it's something I talked about with AP, with David, with Zach. The amount of shifting you're doing defensively as a bad defensive baseball team drives me nuts. It drives me nuts watching this team play defensive baseball because it's just bad, man. And I understand last year you had the best, last year, statistically, the best defense in LSU baseball history. I'm not asking you to be that. I'm asking you to not be dead last in the conference. I'm asking you to not go from first to worst defense in the SEC. And that's what you are right now. It is bad defensively, man. And it absolutely infuriates me. It's the most infuriating part of this team is the fielding, the infield. This weekend, Friday, I don't go on rants, but man, I'm not asking you to be as good as you were last year. I'm asking you to be middle of the pack, and you're not that. You're the worst defense in the SEC. It's got to be better. It's got to be better. And it's going to come up when we go through game flow in a little bit. I'll get to comments right now. But the defense, watching the defense play baseball is just so infuriating. Let's see. Joker, you have Joker. What's up? Let's see. I know AP's in the chat. Let's see. I'm trying to see Trying to see taxes. You did your taxes today, Paul. That's how excited you are to talk baseball. AP, what's up, AP? What's up, AP? Happy birthday to my buddy AP. Happy birthday. I hope you're having a great birthday, my friend. I greatly appreciate you and happy birthday. Wish happy birthday out to my guy AP. Hope you're having a great day, my friend. Um happy birthday to you, my friend, for sure. Show AP some love in the comments. It's his birthday. Hope you're having a great one, my friend. Okay, I'm trying to calm myself down after that rant about that defense because it is frustrating. It is extremely frustrating to watch this team play defensive baseball. But again, I hope you're having a great day, my friend, and happy birthday. Let's get into a little bit of game flow. Unfortunately, let's recap this baseball series. Game 1 Friday, you lose 6-3. Game 1 and game 2, both of those games started pretty well on Friday and Saturday. You took leads early. You were up 2-0 in game 1 on Friday early. You were up 2-0 in game 2 on Saturday early. Specifically on Friday, Jake Brown hit a 2-run bomb in the first inning after Chris Stanfield was walked by Hunter Elliott to lead off the first inning. I mean, Elliott threw 24 pitches in the first inning, so you were able to drive up his pitch count above 20 pitches in just the first inning alone. So it was a good start for you in the first inning. But this is another thing, man. This is another thing. I'm gonna get mad talking about it. To end the first inning, you had that Jake Brown 2-run bomb. You go up 2-0. To end the first inning, you try to do. I guess you were trying to do like the double steal that you've been trying to do from like stealing, going from first to second and from third to home to try to bring home another run. And like Cade Aaron Beatty gets tagged out at third base. He gets tagged out at third base to end the inning, to end the first inning that you were doing pretty well in. You were doing pretty well in the first inning. And you had that base running mistake that really got you out of that inning when you were having good offensive success early in that game. Like that base running instance. Just like, yeah, we'll get to more of that later, but that was like the first base running mistake, and some other ones we'll bring up later. But you go up 2-0. Ole Miss would tie it though with 2 runs of their own in the bottom of the first. Kaysen Evans got to start. Now Kaysen had a good start. I think like he went 6 innings. It wasn't like the beginning of the game was shaky for Kaysen Evans. He gave up 2 runs in the first inning of this game to Ole Miss, and 5 of the first 6 Ole Miss hitters reached base. So Ole Miss scored 2 runs in the first inning. They had 2 singles off of fastballs to start the bottom of the first. Will Furness hit an RBI single. I think there were a couple times early in the first really 2 innings of this game where I think Kaysen was leaving the ball up in the zone a little bit too much for my liking, and Ole Miss was able to tag and get some hits off of it. I think they left them up in the zone a little bit too much early in this game from Kaysen, but he was able to settle in. We'll get into that a little bit later. But Ole Miss scores 2 runs in the first inning. Their second run came home to score in the first inning because of a passed ball by Omar Cerna that might have been the worst pass ball that I've seen this season, possibly. In a season where it's been filled with pass balls and wild pitches to the point where I am so sick and tired of the wild pitches and pass balls and all of that you struggle with every single weekend. The ball is a strike. It is a fastball for a strike that Cerna cannot glove. It pops out of his glove. He can't catch it, and it rolls all the way back, basically halfway back to the pitcher's mound, and allows the second run of the inning to score for Ole Miss in the first inning. That might have been the worst passed ball I've seen this year. Like, it was so egregiously bad. And when I talk about this, like when I talk about this team, I'm not trying to point out individuals. It is a team sport and a team effort. And I'm not in to attack players. But I will say on that play, like it is a fastball for a strike that you are not able to glove, and it rolls all the way back to the mound and allows a runner to score. Like, it was atrocious. It was absolutely atrocious. It was terrible. Um, that happened, so it's 2-2. Casey Evans would strike out 2 in a row with the bases loaded, finds a good way to get out of the first inning. He did allow 2 runs to score. He did allow 5 of the first 6 Ole Miss hitters to reach base, but got out of it with 2 strikeouts. Now, he did throw over 30 pitches in the first inning, Kaysen did. So he did run up that pitch count a little bit early with 30 pitches in the first inning. 11 pitch inning for Hunter Elliott for Ole Miss in the second. Kaysen Evans would give up a solo bomb to lead off the second inning to Ole Miss's Owen Pano. Owen Pano had a really good weekend for Ole Miss. So Evans would give up that leadoff solo bomb in the second. Again, I think he was leaving the ball a little bit up in the zone early, a little bit too much. But then after that, again, Casey Evans is an absolute fighter, man. He's an absolute fighter. After the rough start that we saw, we saw a rough start for him against Kentucky, that he was able to buckle down and pitch 6 innings in that game. He has a rough start against Ole Miss, gives up 2 runs in the first inning, gives up that solo bomb in the second to Owen Pano, but then Evans would sit down, retire 12 Ole Miss batters in a row. Now, in the middle of that, he did walk a batter in the middle of that, but that walk was wiped out by a nice double play that was turned by Stephen Milam and Seth Dardar. But again, Casey Evans being able to buckle down after some shaky starts and really extend and get to 6 innings, which is important for you it's been important for you for as long as Cooper Moore has been out, for Casey Evans and William Schmidt to extend. And with some of these starts for Casey Evans that have been shaky, but him being able to fight and get past it and still go 6 innings in this game was big for you. So after that start, he retires 12 in a row. Casey does. So that happens. Chris Stanfield would get to second base in the third with no outs. So Stanny gets to second base in the third with no outs, but they weren't able to get him to cross the plate. So again, you have a runner on second and Stanny with no outs in the third. You're not able to get him across the plate. Kind of similar thing happened in the fourth inning. Braun doubled and Omar Cerna singled in the fourth. But then there were back-to-back strikeouts from Seth Dardar and John Pearson to end the inning, and you're not able to get either one of those runners to cross the plate. You strain both runners on base. You strain runners on base in the third. You strain runners on base in the fourth. Milam and Cerna would go on to single in the 6th inning, but Dardar would strike out to end the 6th inning as well. It was a bad check swing call by the umpire, saying that Dardar swung on strike 3 to end the 6th inning. He didn't swing. It was a bad call by the umpire. But constantly, I think with this offense, man, the lack of situational baseball, not being able to play situational baseball, when you have runners in scoring position with less than 2 outs, move the runners over. That's what you got to do. You got to be able to move the runners over in that situation. You don't even have to get a hit. Put the ball in play. Move the runners over. It can be a ground ball. It can be a sac fly. It can be whatever you want it to be. Put the ball in play. And this team has struggled with that this season. This offense has struggled with that this season. And they definitely struggled with that in game 1 on Friday. The situational baseball has been lacking for this offense. Not being able to move runners over. When you have runners in scoring position with less than 2 outs, you got to be able to move them over. And this team has struggled with that at times this season. Again, great job by Casey Evans getting through 6 innings. Casey went 6 innings, gave up 3 runs on 5 hits, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts. Again, rough start for Casey, but did a really good job buckling down and going 6 innings, only giving up 3 runs. You'll absolutely take it from Casey Evans. In the 7th inning, John Pearson and Chris Stanfield were both walked to start the 7th inning. There was an error by the third baseman, Judd Unimark, on a ground ball that was hit pretty hard by Caden and Beatty, but it was an error that was made by Judd Unimark. And then Derek Curio would tie it at 3 in the 7th inning with a sacrifice fly to center. That's what I'm asking for. Like, I was happy in the 7th inning. I was so happy in the 7th inning because I was like, you moved the runner over. Good. I know it's not a base hit. I don't need a base hit in that situation. I need you to put the ball in play. And, like, Curio's able to do that. That's what I'm asking for. That's what would have helped you in the 3rd, in the 4th, in the 6th, and you weren't able to do that. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about situational baseball, when I'm talking about runners in scoring position with less than 2 outs. Get a sac fly. Move the runner over. Derek Curio did that in the 7th inning, in the 7th inning of the game, to tie the game. Then you would have Zach Cowan would come in for Kason Evans in the 7th inning. Cowan would pitch a clean 7th inning. In the 8th inning, I will say one of the only bright spots of this weekend was Mason Braun. Like, he had 3 hits on Friday night in game 1. He had 2 hits Saturday in game 2. He had 5 hits in the first 2 games of the series. I think he had another hit or Sunday. I forget what his stat line was Sunday. But I think Mason Braun had a really good weekend for you. I think he's solidifying himself in that first base role as a freshman with what he's been able to do. I think he was one of the only lone bright spots of the weekend outside of in the 8th inning. In the 8th inning, Mason Braun hits a single in a tie game. It was tied at 3, and then he gets picked off at first. It's a freshman mistake that can happen in a game that is tied at 3 late in the game. You're the leadoff runner, and you got on. I don't even think Braun was trying to steal. I don't even think he was trying to make a play or steal or anything. But he got picked off. You've had base runner errors, like you had that, one by Beatty that ended the first inning, and then Braun gets picked off in the 8th inning. Again, just lack of awareness. I don't know what it is, but you had base running mistakes in game 1, and then the bottom of the 8th inning just killed you. I mean, we talked about this earlier with this defense, man, and I don't know what to say anymore. I just ran it on a while ago, but in the 8th inning, we can talk about it. Like, you go to the bottom of the 8th, Zach Cowan on the mound. It's a tie game. It's tied at 3. Ethan Kloss, the freshman, came in for John Pearson. He came in for John Pearson. I believe William Patrick pinch ran for John Pearson in the 7th inning, or in the top of the 8th inning. So Ethan Kloss came in as the new third baseman for LSU to start the 8th, the bottom of the 8th, replacing John Pearson. But the 8th inning was just an absolute disaster for you. Tristan Becerra would hit a leadoff infield single. Kloss tried to make the throw to first to get Becerra out, but was not able to. And then after that, man, a ground ball is hit to Stephen Milam. A ground ball is hit to Stephen Milam in this instance. He tosses it to Ethan Kloss, who's trying to cover second base and turn a double play. He tries to turn the double play, second, throw to first. Now, the runner running at first was safe. The runner running at first beat the throw. So you weren't going to get the runner out at first anyway. But Ethan Kloss's foot wasn't on the second base bag. It wasn't on the bag. How is your foot not on the bag? And I know Ethan Kloss is a freshman. And I know Jack Rucker is a freshman. And I know these guys will be great at some point, I'm sure, in their LSU career. They just need development. But right now, you're bringing these guys in as defensive replacements, and they're not able to make the plays. They're not able to make the plays. They don't seem to be ready. They don't seem to be ready in these instances. And your foot has to be on the bag there. The first thing you got to do in that situation, because, again, you got a runner running fast to first base that you're probably not going to be able to get. But you at least got to get the lead. You at least got to get the leadoff runner out, the lead runner out at second, and you receive the ball, but your foot's not on the bag. Your foot's not on the bag. So the runner's safe at second. The runner's safe at first. You have that situation. Will Furness would then hit an infield single. It would wind up being an infield single on an error. It was an error. It wasn't an error ruled that. It was ruled a single by Furness. But Dardar threw it wide, an errant throw by Dardar that pulled Mason Braun off the bag. So you got bases loaded with no outs in a tie game with basically like two bad defensive plays. And at this point, I'm feeling so terrible for Zach Cowan because Zach Cowan can't help it. Like Zach Cowan can't help it with how his defense is playing because the defense is not helping him out at all. And it's bases loaded, nobody out, tie game in the bottom of the eighth inning in that situation. You would have Hayden Federico would hit an RBI single down the right field line that would give Ole Miss the lead on 4-3. And then you would have another run that came home to score on a squeeze bunt that was laid down by Ole Miss's Brett Mosley that Ethan Kloss can't field right. He can't field the ball on a squeeze bunt. He can't field it, and nobody's out, and another run scores, makes it 5-3. So there's another defensive mistake right there. You have a sac fly that's hit later in the inning by Braden Randall that extends the Ole Miss lead to 6-3. And I mean, that cost you the game. That bottom of the eighth inning cost you the game because you had Kloss not stepping on the bag at second base, Kloss not able to field the bunt, Dardar not able to make a solid throw to second base. Now, I know Seth Dardar is a little bit banged up, a little bit hurt, and I understand all of that. And Seth Dardar has been really good for you, especially lately. But it's like, man, that kills you. That costs you the game right there. Like, Zach Cowan can't really do anything about that. Zach Cowan can't do anything about that, man. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like, two of those runs came home to score on a sac bunt and then a sac fly that Zach Cowan can't help. I mean, he gave up that RBI single, but besides that, he can't do anything about that. He can't do anything about that. And again, your defense cost you that game on Friday. They cost you that game on Friday. And it's bad defensive baseball from this team. It is bad defensive baseball from this team. You left way too many runners stranded, left way too many runners on base offensively, and you ended up losing because you're not playing good situational baseball. Like you're not playing good situational baseball, and you're not playing good defense. You're not fielding well, and you're not playing good defense, and that's what ends it for you in game one. Let's see. Yeah, it was probably a balk. It was probably a balk. I do agree with that. That's what it kind of looked like, Joker. It did kind of look like it did look like a balk. But still, you can't get picked off in that situation by Braun. That's another mistake. I want to move through some of this. We'll get to game two. Game two was embarrassing. I mean, it just was embarrassing. You lose 12-2, run rule in 7 innings. But again, you start out well in game two. LSU would score a run in the first inning. Derek Curiel was walked with 2 outs in the first inning. Kerry Darren Beatty would then hit a single, and then with Stephen Milam would hit a double that would drive in a run, and Derek Curiel. Now, John Pearson, again, would fly out to end the inning. So Pearson would strand 2 runners on base. So, again, even though you score that run in the top of the first, you do have that Pearson fly out to end that inning, and you strand both runners on base. But you go up early. Schmidt would have a clean first inning with 2 strikeouts. Then you would score another run in the second inning. Mason Braun would single. Omar Cerna would hit a double to start the second. Chris Stanfield would hit a sac fly to drive in a run. So one run would score for you in the second inning. Again, good job by Stanfield. Good job by Stanfield. Move the runner over. You have outs to play with. Move the runner over. If it's got to be a fly ball, if it's got to be a ground out, I don't care. Just put the ball in play and move the runner over and get the run to cross the plate. And that's what Staney was able to do in the second inning. Curiel did that in the 7th inning on Friday, but it's not happening enough for this team. It's not happening enough for this team. Schmidt would walk 2 batters in the second, but then he would also record 3 strikeouts in the inning, and he wouldn't give up a run in the second inning. I thought Schmidt looked awesome early. In the first 3 innings, his breaking ball was absolutely filthy in the first 3 innings of that game, like it normally is. And Schmidt didn't allow a run in the first 3 innings of this game. He struck out 7 in just the first 3 innings, so it looked like Schmidt was dealing and having a really, really good game to start. Let's see. You would have in the 4th inning, you would have Mason Braun single to lead off the fourth inning, but then you would have three straight LSU hitters and Omar Cerna, Seth Dardar, and Chris Stanfield. All three of those guys were struck out by Ole Miss's Cade Townsend to end the inning. So you get the leadoff runner on and Braun with the single in the fourth, but you're not able to capitalize on getting the leadoff runner on in that situation. And then, like I said, William Schmidt was great in the first three innings of this game, but it would really run into a wall in the fourth inning of this game. Schmidt would. He would walk the first two batters he faced in the fourth inning. Now, I do think William Schmidt got squeezed a little bit on a couple of these calls. The strike zone was a little tight in this situation, and Schmidt, you could tell he wasn't happy about it. But Schmidt would walk two batters in the fourth inning, two wild pitches in the fourth inning. I mean, again, the pass balls and the wild pitches from this team that have been a constant throughout this entire season are just, it's killer, man. Like, it's absolutely killer. And it's not getting any better. Like, it's not getting any better throughout this season. And it's just, it is what it is. You have Schmidt will walk two wild pitches in the inning. First run of the game for Ole Miss would score on a sacrifice fly. And then Ole Miss's first hit of the game would tie the game at 2. Then Schmidt would give up a 2-run bomb on a hanging breaking ball by Ole Miss hitter Austin Foley. That would give Ole Miss the 4-2 lead. Then Schmidt would give up a double to Ole Miss's Owen Pano. And Schmidt was taken out of the game just like that. So, again, really good first 3 innings of this game for Schmidt, and he ran into an absolute brick wall in the fourth inning. I know David and Zach have pointed this out on Go Deep Dive. When Schmidt, you got to be able to get past the bad strike zone. You got to be able to get past the bad strike zone. You got to be able. And when the Ole Miss announcers are talking about Schmidt's demeanor and how it looks like he's getting frustrated when he's out there on the mound, like when they can tell that and the fans can tell that and everybody can tell that, you got to be able to put that behind you. I think William Schmidt has been really good this year. I really, really do. But in this situation, he ran into an absolute brick wall in the fourth inning of this game. Schmidt was taken out of the game after giving up the double to Owen Pano. Schmidt's final line, 3 2/3 innings, gave up 4 runs on 3 hits, 7 strikeouts, 4 walks. Cooper Williams would find a way to get LSU out of the fourth, but then Williams would give up a single and then hit a batter to start the fifth inning. For Cooper Williams. Then, the fifth and sixth innings were flat out just Ole Miss. Absolutely. They scored 8 runs on you in just 2 innings alone in this situation. Now, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. I want to go through what happened. So Williams, to start the fifth, gives up that single, hits a batter. Hayden Federico hits an RBI single that drives in a run. Zion Theophilus, that was driving a run. It would make it 5-2 in the fifth inning. Theophilus would come in, get you out of the fifth inning. But then the sixth, Ole Miss scored 7 runs, put up 7 runs on the board on you in the sixth inning. In this situation, it was 5-2 going into the bottom of the sixth. Out of the bottom of the sixth, it was 12-2. Zion Theophilus comes back in the game to start the sixth inning, walks a batter, gives up a single to start the inning. Then Danny Lockenmeyer would come in. Lockenmeyer would throw a wild pitch that let a run score, and then he would hit a batter. So this is kind of consecutive, I think 3 relief appearances in a row where Danny Lockenmeyer has really, really struggled with command, just not able to have any command. So I think Jay is losing a little bit of faith and a little bit of trust in Danny Lockenmeyer. I don't know how much is there anymore, because in his last 3 relief appearances, Lockenmeyer hasn't been able to throw strikes. So Lockenmeyer would throw a wild pitch that let a run score. He would hit a batter. Let's see. Connor Benj would come in the game. He would give up an RBI single to Judd Utermark. Ethan Plog, the lefty, would come in the game, give up a 2 RBI single to Will Furness. Then Plog would walk a batter. He would get a strikeout. He would get a ground out. Then Plog would walk another batter. And then Maverick Rizzi would come in the game with the bases loaded and 2 outs and give up a bases clearing 3 RBI double off the wall to Owen Pano. That would make it 12-2. and Ole Miss would take the game 12-2 in 7 innings. Embarrassing run rule loss for the Tigers. I think for me, I hate saying this because I don't mean to be this way, but it's kind of like Jay had to punt on the game in the 5th inning. It's kind of like Jay had to punt on the game in the 5th inning because you still have, like, Sheeran hadn't been used, Guidry hadn't been used. Like, both of those guys are probably your best 2 arms available because Zach Cowan pitched the night before. You don't go out with them in the 5th inning. You go out with Theophilus, with Lockenmeyer, with Plog, with Rizzi. Like, you don't go out with your best arms. And because you don't go out with your best arms, I think it showed the lack of depth you have behind Guidry, Cowan, and Sheeran in the bullpen. I do think Santiago Garcia has been good. I like Garcia a lot. I am positive on Garcia. I'm still positive on Santiago Garcia. But besides that, I think you go in with Theophilus, Rizzi, Plog, Benj, Lockenmeyer, like guys like that in the 5th and 6th innings, and they give up 8 runs in those 2 innings alone to Ole Miss, like not being able to do anything in that situation, and you kind of get embarrassed and you lose 12-2 in 7 innings. And I think it kind of showed the lack of depth that you had in the bullpen behind some of your top guys, and you didn't go with your top guys in that 5th inning, and because of that, you gave up 8 runs in the 5th and the 6th alone. I saw a post from Jason Armstrong. This is about the offense. So the offense started well. Like, they scored a run in the 1st inning and a run in the 2nd inning. But then in the 3rd through the 7th, so in the last 5 innings of this game, Ole Miss pitchers combined to throw only 43 pitches. That's 8.6 pitches per inning in the final 5 innings of game 2 on Saturday. So you started well, but after that, 3rd through 7th, you weren't really able to do anything offensively. So you lose that game. You go into game 3 in a crazy game, man. These Sunday games are insane. These Sunday games have been absolutely insane when you look at it. We'll kind of go through some stuff. Game 3, LSU was no hit by Ole Miss starter Taylor Rabe through 6 innings. LSU did not have a hit in this game on Sunday yesterday through 6 innings. Rabe would retire the LSU side in order in the 1st with less than 10 pitches. Grant Fontenot would get another start, and I think Fontenot has been good lately. Like, over the past few weeks, I think Fontenot has been really good, but this was definitely not nearly his best outing. He only recorded 1 out in a start for you that he had yesterday for Grant Fontenot. Fontenot would give up a leadoff single. Now, Jay Johnson got mad early in this game. Like, I was like, there's no way that Jay survives this game. Jay might get ejected for his 2nd Sunday in a row because Jay got mad after the first Ole Miss batter of the game because the 3rd base umpire for Ole Miss ruled that it was a no swing on a check swing. Jay absolutely disagreed with it, didn't understand it. Like, Jay was getting mad and kind of talking to the 3rd base umpire. So that was an interesting situation. But Fontenot would give up a leadoff single. Then he would walk a batter. Then Fontenot would give up 2 more singles that drove in the first 2 runs of the game for Ole Miss in the 1st inning. Then Fontenot would be taken out of the game. So Fontenot, again, only recorded 1 out for you in the game yesterday on Sunday. That is definitely not what you want. Again, when you look at the numbers combined between Fontenot and Guidry and the 3 starts combined replacing Cooper Moore haven't been great. I think the only one that was good was I thought Fontenot pitched pretty well on Sunday for you in Knoxville against Tennessee. But besides that, Guidry's start was pretty bad, was really bad actually against Kentucky. And then Fontenot didn't get out of the 1st inning for you yesterday against Ole Miss. Gavin Guidry would then come in the game. I think it was Will Furness got caught. The runner at 3rd, Will Furness, got caught in kind of a rundown, and then Guidry would induce a pop-up to get LSU out of the 1st inning, only giving up 2 runs. So that would be pretty good. But then Rabe would retire. Rabe, again, retired the first 6 LSU batters he faced, retired He retired the side in order in the first, retired the side in order in the second, and that was only on 20 pitches with 3 strikeouts for Taylor Rabe in the first 2 innings of this game. Gavin Guidry would give up a 2-out solo bomb to Ole Miss's Dom Decker in the second inning. He would also record 3 strikeouts, Guidry would, in the second inning, in between giving up that solo bomb in the second to Ole Miss's Dom Decker. Let's see. Ole Miss would hit a single off of Guidry in the third. Then in the third, I mean, this was blatant runner's interference. I think the runner at first off of that single thought that Milam caught the ball, so he went back to first. So it should have been a double play. It was clearly runner's interference. Like, it was clearly obstruction, but it wasn't called that. This was an annoying call by the umpires in this situation. But runner's interference was not called. They said it wasn't obstruction, which is crazy to me. LSU would end up getting out of the third inning, though, without giving up a run. Ground out by Guidry gets you out of the third inning. In the fourth inning, again, I'm not talking about anything with the offense here because the offense didn't have a single hit in the first 6 innings of this game. So that's why I'm just talking about what you did as a pitching staff. Chris Stanfield hit hard into the wall in the fourth. He actually caught the ball, but Chris Stanfield hit pretty hard into the wall. Remember, he got hurt a little bit banged up against Bethune-Cookman, and then he got banged up a little bit yesterday. He would remain in the game. But again, Stanny is a warrior. Like, I do want to say that. He's an absolute warrior with what he's been able to do. Gavin Guidry would give up a solo bomb to Ole Miss's Owen Pano, who again had a great weekend for the Rebels. Guidry gave up a solo bomb to Owen Pano in the fourth inning. Then Guidry would give up a single by Dom Decker. It was shifted. Basically, John Pearson playing the shortstop position and wasn't able to field the ball, wasn't able to get the ball. Again, the shift is like, I don't know. It's just frustrating because it's like your defense is already bad. And now you're complicating all of these things with a shift. And it's like, your defense is already playing bad. Like, your defense has got to go back to the fundamentals. Like, they got to be playing well at their regular positions for you to be shifting this much. It's different for you to shift with the best defense in LSU baseball history in 2025. But this defense is the worst in the SEC statistically. And like, the shift, I'm not saying don't shift. I'm saying you're shifting too much. You're shifting too much and you're complicating things too much for a defense that is already struggling mightily. Then you would have a 2-run bomb that was hit by Tristan Becerra. It was kind of a fastball down the middle or something like that. So Tristan Becerra would hit a 2-run bomb off of Gavin Guidry. You would have, this was all in the fourth inning. So Guidry would give up a solo bomb in the fourth inning, would give up a 2-run bomb in the fourth inning. Then Judd Utermark would single in the fourth inning and advance to third on 2 wild pitches. So again, pass balls, wild pitches, another issue for you for another series. It's been an issue for you defensively all season long. Then after, Will Furness drove in a run with an RBI single off of Gavin. Then Santiago Garcia would come in the game to replace Gavin Guidry. In the fourth inning, you had another errant pickoff throw by Santiago Garcia that snuck past Mason Braun. Again, whether it's pickoffs, whether it's pass balls, whether it's wild pitches, it's always something with this defense. It's always something with this defense that goes wrong. And it's just so frustrating, man. It's so frustrating watching this team field the ball and play defensive baseball right now. But it was 7-0 Ole Miss after 4 innings. Now, Garcia would pitch a clean 5th inning with 2 strikeouts. Marcos Paz would pitch a clean 6th inning for the Tigers as well. Stephen Milam made a great play in a long list of great plays that he's made this season. He made another great play to end the 6th inning for the Tigers in this game. And then we'll get to the 7th inning. It's 7-0. It's 7-0 through 6 innings. This offense has done nothing all game. They've been no hit. They've only had 2 runners on base all game. But the runners came I think a walk and then a hit by pitch, basically. But this offense has done nothing all game. And then you get to the 7th inning down 7-0. You get to that situation, and then you would have, man, just more crazy Sunday stuff you would go through. So 7-0 going into the top of the 7th, and then back homers, 3 straight home runs in the 7th for Derek Curiel, Cade Arambidi, and Jake Brown. 3 straight bombs to lead off the 7th, makes it 7-3. The first 2 bombs from Curiel and Arambidi came off of Ole Miss starter Taylor Rabe. Jake Brown's homer came off of Ole Miss left-handed reliever Will Libbert. Then Omar Cerna and Steven Milam would both hit singles off of Will Libbert. And then both runners were driven in on a single by Braden Simpson that made it 5-7 in this game. So again, just it's crazy. You get no hit for 6 innings. This offense gets no hit. There's no life in this offense for 6 innings. And then you come out 3 straight bombs, single by Cerna, Milam, single by Braden Simpson, drives in 2 runs, makes it 7-5. Eddie Yaman hits a pop-up that falls into the infield. Ole Miss can't catch it, so Yaman gets on base. And then it was kind of a chopper single that was hit by Derek Curiel that would drive in another run, would make it 7-6. And then the tying run scored on a wild pitch that makes it 7-7 in the 7th inning. LSU puts up 7 runs on the board in the top of the 7th inning after starting this game 7-0 and being lifeless in the first 7 innings of this game. It was absolutely nuts in the 7th inning. It's crazy to me, the inconsistency from this offense, because we've seen it. We've seen them be able to do good stuff. We see it Sunday against Tennessee. We see it Sunday against Kentucky. And then, like yesterday, you're lifeless through 6 innings. You're lifeless. You can't do anything. And then you put up 7 runs on the board. It's 7-7. You got to think Ole Miss is mentally dejected at this point because they worked a 7-0 lead through 6 innings of this game. And you go into the bottom of the 7th, and Marcos Paz comes back out in the game, which this is something that David with Go Deep Dive has talked about. I don't understand why Jay didn't go to Devin Sheeran in this situation. I didn't understand at all why Jay did not go to Devin Sheeran in this situation, because Sheeran is your best reliever available. He's your best reliever available. Now, apparently Zach Cowan was tossing a little bit, warming up a little bit in the 8th inning, so Cowan could have been available for a couple outs Sunday if you wanted him. But Sheeran's your best pitcher available. It's a tie game going into the bottom of the 7th after a miraculous 7-run top of the 7th for the Tigers. But you start with Marcos Paz. Paz would give up it was a ground ball. It was weakly hit, but it snuck by Mason Braun. It snuck by the first baseman. It snuck by the second baseman. And then obstruction was called on Marcos Paz. Again, Marcos Paz kind of steps basically in the way of the runner, and the runner hits Marcos Paz, or Marcos Paz hits the runner, so obstruction is called on Marcos Paz. That will move the runner over to second base. Again, I don't really understand why you don't go with Devin Sheeran to start the 8th inning, really, but so you have that runner on second, then Devin Sheeran would come in the game. But again, runner on second, so a sacrifice bunt would move the runner over from second to third. Then Braden Randall would drive in a run on an RBI single that was hit off of Devin Sheeran. Austin Foley would hit a single off of Sheeran, but then Sheeran would record a strikeout. He would issue a walk. Then we would get a ground ball out to end the inning. Hudson Calhoun in the top of the 8th inning retired LSU in order in the top of the 8th inning. In the bottom of the 8th inning, Sheeran would come out. Sheeran would come back in the game in the bottom of the 8th inning. Will Furnace would hit a a double off of Sheeran in the 8th inning. Then Sheeran would issue a walk and a hit by pitch to load the bases in the 8th inning. And then to end the 8th inning. So he gives up a walk, gives up a hit by pitch, gives up a double to Will Furnace. So bases loaded, but Sheeran is able to get out of the inning on a miraculous, amazing effort, amazing play by Devin Sheeran. Basically, it was a wild pitch that got away a little bit from Omar Cerna. Cerna gets to the ball, tosses it to Devin Sheeran covering home plate, and Sheeran basically has to dive to tag the runner out to get LSU out of the inning without giving up a run. Amazing play by Sheeran. Again, I don't really understand why Jay didn't start the 7th inning with Devin Sheeran. But, man, you have the first 6 innings of this game where you're lifeless offensively. And you don't record a single hit in the first 6 innings of this game. Then you put up 7 runs on 8 hits with 3 solo bombs in the 7th inning, and then you come out back in the 8th inning in a 1-run game. You're down 8-7, and you think you took all the life out of Ole Miss, and Hudson Calhoun, the reliever for Ole Miss, retires the LSU side in order pretty easily in the 8th, and then the left-hander Walker Hooks does the same thing, retires the LSU side in order in the 9th, and the Tigers get swept. Like, I don't understand with this offense. Like, it's just so inconsistent, man. And this team is so inconsistent. And it's not that, to kind of wrap this up, because I know Paul is going live right now, and I understand that. So I'm trying to get out of here for him and not go a little bit long. I apologize. I've gone a little bit longer than I originally expected us to. But overall, I don't think it's a talent issue with this team. I think you have the talent. I think you do have talent. But, man, as a team, cohesively, this team's not very good right now. They're not very good right now. And I understand that, you were 3-12 in 2024 and you were able to bounce back, and finish that season and you made it to a regional final in Chapel Hill, and you're 6-9 in SEC play right now. But from the defense is just flat out bad. The offense is inconsistent. They'll have amazing innings like the 7th inning, but the 8 of the 9 innings, they got basically shut down and they were lifeless. And 8 of the 9 innings they played yesterday. But the 7th inning gets them back in the game, and then they can't do anything in the 8th and the 9th, even though you got to sense that Ole Miss is a little bit mentally dejected. And then the pitching wasn't great this weekend either. But, folks, I'm always going to cheer on my Tigers. I'm always going to love my Tigers. I'm always going to cheer them on with everything they do and keep watching, and I'll never give up and all of that. But this team is just way too inconsistent right now to be good enough to get to where they want to go. They're way too inconsistent, and it is what it is, man. And the defense is too bad, man. Like, the defense is bad. It is hurting you. It is hurting you. It is hurting you. It is hurting you. And I don't know, man. It was a bad weekend for the Tigers, and it doesn't get any easier from here with the back half of SEC play, because you got to go on the road to Starkville and play Mississippi State, which Mississippi State has actually lost 6 SEC conference games in a row, but they swept Mississippi State swept Vanderbilt, and Mississippi State swept Ole Miss, and you went 1-5 in both of those series. So even though Mississippi State is like 0-6 in their last 6 SEC games, I mean, Starkville is still a tough place to play. You got to go to Athens later this year. Athens, like Georgia, is one of the best teams in the SEC, maybe the best team in the SEC this year. That's going to be tough. You play South Carolina, who got a road series sweep against Missouri this weekend. Now, I know that's Missouri, but South Carolina is 5-6 since in the SEC in conference play since Paul Mainieri got fired. So South Carolina's not terrible. I mean, Florida has a great 1-2 punch in the starting rotation, and Liam Peterson and Aiden King. This schedule was difficult in the back half, especially going to Starkville, especially going to Athens, playing Mississippi State, and playing Georgia. And I think you have talent on this team. I think you have individual talent. But as a team, as a cohesive unit, it's a struggle right now, man. It just is. It's a struggle right now. And as a team, cohesively as a unit, I think it's an average baseball team. I think it's an average baseball team, average at best. And I think this weekend it was a bad baseball team. I think it was a bad baseball team this weekend. I'm going to always cheer on my Tigers. You know that. You know I'll never, give up or throw in the towel or stop watching. But this weekend was extremely frustrating. And again, my number one thing is the defense. I don't understand how you can go from first to worst in a year. I understand you were great last season and it was the best defense in LSU baseball history. And I'm not asking you to be the best defense in LSU baseball history this season. I'm asking you to be like middle of the pack. Like give me like 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th in the SEC in fielding percentage. But no, this team is dead last in the SEC in fielding percentage. And it's a big problem, man. It's a big problem. I'll be back on the show tomorrow to maybe talk a little bit more about this. I do want to talk and catch up on football and men's and women's basketball. I want to get out of here for my buddy Paul. I know I've gone a little bit over. I'm sorry. I did not plan to go this long, but we had a lot to talk about and a lot to cover. Let me get into a few of these comments. Let's see. Goose Sports. Pearson starting to be a liability at the plate. Well, he may not have had a good weekend, but the 2 weekends before this, Pearson was awesome. Like Pearson and Dardar, I would say, like had a really good 2-week stretch. Now Dardar's a little bit banged up and a little bit hurt. But yeah, I forgot if it was game 1 or game 2, but LSU batter struck out 11 times. It's because of how good Paz looked. Jay said he felt Paz's stuff was better for Federico. If you notice with Federico came back, they walked him, and honestly, Paz did his job. You just didn't make the play. Yeah, I understand that. Like Paz, that's not really Paz's fault. I do get that. I think it's better for a pitcher to start an inning than to come in the middle of an inning. And I think Devin Sheeran's been one of your best relievers. So in a tie game, I would like to see Sheeran come in that situation. But I absolutely understand your point. Sheeran's stuff wasn't a good matchup for Federico. I get that, man. I get what you're saying. There's a lot to discuss, Junior, a lot to go through. All right, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to leave the space for Paul. Y'all tune into his show, Walk It Off Talk. Again, I apologize for going a little bit over. Had a lot to go through in the show today. Thank you, folks, as always, for tuning into the show. God bless. Go Tigers. Have a great one. Babin out.